Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
This is our first live broadcast
Yep.
of Is It Crazy or Is It God? This is wild because I do the editing most of the time, and this is going to be crazy because I'm not going to get to take out any of the or likes or knows that I normally take out, and yeah, this is how it is. But we're coming to you real. This is what it is.
Oh my gosh, man.
Okay, so
we're gonna start going live more too.
You know what? We forgot to pray. We're gonna do it right now.
Okay. All right, dear Lord, thank you for everything. Thank you for just being on this live and broadcasting and just spreading your word. We love you. Thank you in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Short and simple.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like God has to appreciate that, right? He's got a lot.
He appreciates. Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, so here's what. You were saying, I apologize, I just cut you off. You were saying something about this is our first time going live.
And we're going to do live more. We're going to try to go live every week.
I don't know about that. Let's see how this goes.
Push it to the limit.
Let's take this one step at a time. But I will say this. It's probably going to save me a good 3 hours on a weekend. So that's going to be lovely. But let's just see what happens because you don't know what's in store. It's not that I don't love. I love editing. Yeah. I mean, I love the process.
Very time consuming.
It's time consuming, but it's pretty cool to learn how to do something like that.
It saved me some time.
All right. Well, let's just see what happens. And this show is all about encouraging people to read the Bible and just kind of flatten the myth that it's hard or that it's boring, because it's not. And yeah, so that's what we're doing here today. All right, so I think I put the title as Psalms Various because we're at the part of our reading plan, and we're using the 365-day Bible reading plan from teachsundayschool.com. We're at the part of our reading plan where they're breaking up different parts of Psalms. We already went through 1 Samuel throughout reading Psalms, and now we're introducing 2 Samuel. And the way we're doing it, we're not doing it in 1 year. As you know, if you've been following us or if you have seen anything that we've done, we're not concerned with reading it quickly. We want to read it to understand it all the way, through the plan. So this week was fun. We read the last part of 1 Samuel and then Psalms 18, 121, 123 through 125. 128 through 130 and 2 Samuel 1 through 4. So that's what we're going to come and talk to you about today. But first, how was your week?
Oh man, my week was actually really good. I woke up early. I was pretty consistent with waking up early this week. I went to the gym pretty consistently. I just need to up it more. I think I did 4 days last week. I'm gonna do about 5 days in the gym every week. Besides that, it was good. I went live on my other sports show, fourth quarter, and that went really well. We don't usually go live, but I want to start this. You have prompted me to go live every week like you're doing these two sisters. I think live you get the realness of it. And then you got to think, every time, all the shows you watch, well, mostly news and sports is straight up live.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy?
People appreciate that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But you were saying, yeah, I think that I was thinking about that the other day because it's like entertainment news or news and sports probably just move so fast because I was thinking about it when I was editing. I was like, the editing process can be so, it can be so time consuming that if they were to try to edit the news, and I know they do these little packages of the news, but if you were trying to edit some of that stuff or try to have a show that aired later, it's gonna, you're gonna be kind of behind the times. Things are happening all the time.
Right. So you gotta
go ahead.
You gotta remember, those cooking shows we watch, those are done in a year, and they have all those time to edit.
Yeah.
They got so much time to edit.
I think a lot of stuff we watch is probably, I don't say heavily edited, but I feel like it's probably edited more than we even know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially
they'll be in the studio for 6 hours, 7 hours.
Yeah.
And it's a 30-minute show, an hour show.
Even with like some of the reality programming that we watch, you know, there are storylines being created. There's and there's like, you know, executives and teams of producers who are trying to craft you know, something that they think is entertaining to people. So a lot of the reality shows that people are watching these days aren't really reality shows. They're like storyboarded, like plot lined.
This isn't
like,
real world, guys.
These are characters, but they're exaggerated a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about that on me and my sister's show, Those Two Sisters, live with Those Two Sisters, Thursday nights, on Miss Damita Jo. I'll update the description box in case anybody's watching this later on the replay. But yeah, so a lot of times when we talk about live, like it's real time because it would just get stale. Okay, but I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off a little bit. Your week was good.
It was good. It was good. I just need to expand it. I started reading this book, Shout Out to the Morning Meetup and David Shan. I started reading this book, guys. Faith is reading it as well.
Outwitting the Devil by...
It's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's a very interesting read. And I've been trying to change my habits, so I've been started reading that in the morning right after the gym, right? So we read the Bible early in the morning. Then we go to the gym, and then after we go to the gym, I come back and read instead of watching TV. It's been I've done that for about a couple of days, so I'm just going to turn it up a notch. This week I'm trying to push to 5 days in the gym.
I love it.
5-2 ratio. Guys, follow Jerome.
I love it.
How was your week?
My week was actually decent. We did a interview yesterday, and so it's so funny because there's so many things happening all at once. But one of our good friends, Rose, was saying how she felt like this year was coming off to a slow start, and I feel like that for myself. Although I am accomplishing things that I'm proud of, and there are some things that kind of like pop up and you handle them or whatever. So I'm grateful to not really have huge problems, but I definitely have gotten. I give myself no gold stars for my habits in the morning. Like last week, I completely fell off my habitry. Like, and it's only like the third week of January, maybe. Like, it was the third week of January. The first week of January, I killed it. I crushed it. Second week of January, I kind of was okay. Woke up a few times early, but kind of fell off my workout schedule. Last week was like, it was like all the way off. And I mean, listen, I can make all the excuses. I had to go into the office more often than I normally do, which that went really well. I was grateful that I did do that and that everything went well for the reason that I showed up there. But it kind of like threw my mornings off, and I was just so tired last week. But anyway, not trying to complain, just being transparent. Like, I'm trying to get better, but I have to exercise my discipline. And I really think, part of it is that I didn't have my plan fully realized so that I could execute it well. So, that's not an excuse, that's a lesson learned. And so with everything that I've sort of figured out over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to take that into next week, and I'm just going to have a great week. Do you hear that?
It's something from that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. Well, this is how we do when we go live. That's so interesting, though, that I've never heard that before. But as soon as you go live, things happen, guys.
That's okay.
So, I mean, listen, I'm not upset.
Yeah.
They're jamming on the one down there.
I don't care.
So, all in all, I think I had a good week. And then, like you, I've been taking... so I have read some of Outwitting the Devil on my Kindle, but I've been listening to it because this is one of those books that have like different characters and voices.
It's crazy.
And so it's really interesting when they start getting into the book to hear the audio part of the book. So I've been listening to the audio, and it's like a radio program. I feel like old school when people used to like gather around the radio for the radio programming of the night with the whole family. So like last night we listened to some of the stuff that James had already read, and it was really funny. I mean, it was funny and it's educational and it's interesting. I mean, I say educational because a lot of the stuff that's in this book is really, you know, I won't say out of the word, but it matches up with what we understand about God's word and the enemy. In fact, I saw a verse this morning when I was doing my memory verses. It was Ephesians 6:11, and it reminded me of that because it was like, put on the armor of God so you can, I'm gonna flub it up, but it was like, so you can like beware of the tricks of the devil. And so this is a really interesting book. It's reminding me of things that we already know. But anyway, I'm having a good time. I just feel like I can do better. Luckily, it's only week 3 of the year, and I have time to turn things around. But I had a good week overall. Yeah. We did some reading in the morning.
Yes.
That's one thing that I have been doing is like getting up to read the Bible. But then after that, I'll be like, oh, look.
It's really early, though. It's like 5 in the morning.
Yeah, it's like 5:30 in the morning, and I'll be like, look. Especially last week because I had to go in, but it's all good. Everything else is going great. I'm working my way through projects that are coming due. And, I mean, every day we talk to each other every day about how blessed we feel and like, you know, the things that we're looking forward to. So it was a pretty good week.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I'm ready to, you know, turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
All right.
Okay, so let's get into this then, right?
Yeah. So 1 Samuel 28 through 31 and Psalms 18. So this is basically about Saul visits a medium, an indoor. David leaves the Philistines. David destroys the Amalekites. And Saul and his sons unfortunately die.
I think it's the Amalekites.
Amalekites.
But you know what? We're going to butcher this stuff because we're not experts. We just are, you know.
That post. Achilles.
Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh.
Achilles. What is this?
That was painful to watch.
I was like,
oh no, that's not the right word.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing that.
I felt like they should have gave you something. You got to say it.
You got to say it correctly. But I gotta... I just hope God is not, you know, like say the name right. You know.
Well, I mean, listen, if we catch it like Amalekites, then like let's say it the way we, you know. But if we don't, it's cool.
Yeah, it's
like
fine.
people have,
it's probably like,
you know, this is all the more reason for you to go read it yourself.
Yeah.
Read it yourself. Read along with us, because we might mess up the names, and you want to know for sure, like what they look like, what they sound like.
So. The one thing that stood out to me was the Saul visiting the medium. And it's okay that mediums exist. Mediums are here. Mediums are present. They're in the Bible. I think some people might call them witches, but I don't believe they are. I think they are mediums. You know, but I guess it could be called a witch. It depends on, you know, God says stay away from mediums. So God has given people the ability, so it just depends on how they use it. Just like with everything in life. But it was just very interesting that he visited her, and then the reason that he did is because he's praying to God and God's not answering Saul. He's not answering. And Samuel is gone. Samuel is passed away. Right? And here's the funny thing. In 1 Samuel 28:15, right? This is after the woman called Samuel. Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Like, what are you doing, man? I can't rest in peace. Maybe that's where rest in peace came from.
Oh yeah,
maybe because when you pass away, you're resting.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about anything else, right? And then Saul's like, God's not, he's not talking to me. And he's like, I had to summon you because I don't know what to do.
And Samuel said, why then do you ask me, since the Lord has left you and has become your enemy? I thought those were really tough words because, like James said, Saul was praying, right? But here's the thing. I think God looks out for everybody, but if you are not if you don't have like that warm relationship with God and you're constantly talking to him, then it probably, I'm just guessing here, I don't know this for sure, but it might take a little longer to get through on the main line because you don't have that relationship. Plus, there's a little bit of impatience. Remember, he was impatient earlier in our reading, so I feel like maybe if he were dedicated to like praying and just decided like, okay, now I'm gonna be like faithful about going to God, then maybe God would have started answering him after a while, but he didn't.
And remember, he disobeyed him when the God said, carry out the fierce wrath against Amalek. And he didn't, and the Lord was like, okay,
well, strength is yours.
Yep.
This is what you have to deal with now.
What you have to deal with. So that's just something that stood out to me out of those verses. Now, to the questions.
Okay.
What did Samuel say to Saul, speaking of the dead? What were the consequences? That's so funny that we don't read the questions and we just answered them.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it's really interesting.
That is very interesting. We don't read the questions, guys.
Before we start filming, yeah.
So, like, we don't do that. So all the questions that we answer in the daily Bible reading plan is live reaction. It's not scripted. It's with full off transparency. All right. And it says, what were the consequences? God stopped speaking to him, as we just read. But he says, why do you think God hates this so much?
What was the question? What did Samuel say to Saul about speaking to the dead? Okay. What were the consequences? And why do you think God hates this so much? Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me?
I think you should.
Okay, so the first question, what did Samuel say to Saul about speaking to the dead? Well, we just said, right? Why Samuel said, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? Right? So, like, up from the dead. What were the consequences of him bringing them up from the dead? So then Samuel told Saul that, because you didn't obey the voice of the Lord and didn't execute Amalek, the Lord has done this to you. Plus, he's gonna put Israel into the hands of the Philistines, and basically, everything in your kingdom is going to be given to David. And then he said that him and his sons are going to die. So basically, he said, I'm looking for it. He was like, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me among the dead. That's in 1 Samuel 28:19. And so that's what he said. I guess those are the consequences, that he didn't, that he didn't follow God, and he didn't follow God's instructions regarding Amalek, and he didn't follow God's instructions a lot. Also, I should mention that at the beginning of this chapter, David was like with the Philistines because he had no, let's say he had no choice. Everybody has a choice, but he had to flee away from, the Israelites because Saul was being a hater and making it such a big deal. And he said, oh, David, I won't bother you anymore. But, David wasn't going for that. So he came and was chilling out with the Philistines, and he was fighting with them. Here's the thing. Saul, at one point in 1 Samuel 28:3, he removed the mediums and the spiritists from the land, and basically was like, anybody who practices that sort of thing is going to be dealt with. And then he went and sought the guidance or the help of of a soothsayer or whatever they call it,
Medium.
and they call it a witch of Endor. And he was disguised, so she didn't know at first, and so she ended up saying to him like, "Well, I can't do this because, you know, what do you mean conjure up Samuel? Like, this is not cool. Like, you know, he's cut us off. So why are you laying a trap for my life?" Is what she said in 1 Samuel 28:9. Now she didn't know at that point that it was Saul. However, so this is how people move when they're tricky like this. He is the king, right? Or so, you know, everybody says. So he told them not to practice their witchcraft or what have you. Then he goes and sneaks off. Why couldn't he just say, okay, everybody's cool, practice your witchcraft because I need to go and holler at this person? Instead of being honest about it, he went and sneakily did it. That's like if your boss or your, you know, head of household or whatever, like if somebody says like, oh, we're not gonna, you know, do this thing, like we're not drinking nothing but water in this office, and all other beverages are banned, no sodas, no juice, we're drinking all water, and that's what your boss says, and then the boss comes in with a Diet Coke or you know,
Pepsi or something like that.
And it's like, okay, why not just lift the ban of other beverages? You're the king, so what's up? But instead of doing that, he goes and sneaks, which is speaking to his character. For real. And so anyway, I'm getting into that because that's the consequences are overall. It's like he's doubling back. He's doubling down on his deceit. I think God hates when people, okay, so back to the question. What were the consequences of, I guess, Saul conjuring up the dead, and why do you think God hates this so much? Okay, earlier back when we were reading months ago, I don't remember exactly when this was stated, but we kind of went over, like, it might have been around the Balak and Balaam story. But anyway, we kind of went over how there is truth to the fact that there are other spirits, right? Like, there is, like, when people say, I don't believe in mediums or I don't believe in psychics, like, I certainly believe. I believe in ghosts, right? I'm not saying that those things are, you know, or even like, you know, numerology or astrology. I think all of those things are, you know, existent. I think there's patterns that you can follow and see. And I also feel like there are different spirits and ways to access different realms and stuff like that. Right? Like, that's my own belief. But just because it's available doesn't mean that it's good. Right? It's like that guy years ago who ate McDonald's every day for 30 days, right? That's not a good idea, right? Like, that's not going to be helpful to you. So then this is what I'm saying too about what we're looking at here, and this is why I think God doesn't appreciate when people go try to bring people up from the dead and all that, because what are you even doing? Like, if you need something, come to God. Now, at this point, like I said, Saul was not being heard from by God, but I'll bet if he had tried harder and really put his heart into it and waited, then he would have been able to access God, but his heart had to be clean. Right? I think, I don't know, what do you think?
I disagree with that because, alright, I disagree with that because he didn't follow God. Since this point in the Bible, when God gives you an instruction, he gives you very explicit, strict instructions. He asks you to follow them. I don't know if Saul could have came back from what he did do against Amalek?
Yeah.
Amalek.
Okay.
That's when I think the consequences were his death. And God, I don't think... And God hates it so much is because God needs you to follow his instructions because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why
you don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying to tell you.
It's like you're dealing with harsh chemicals.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Don't drink the bleach. Oh. God's like, what? Now you have to die. I can't save you.
Yeah.
Because I told you don't drink bleach.
Yeah.
So God, I think that's what happened. I think God gave him specific instructions. He didn't follow it. And this is an example of saying, oh, I need you now, God. You haven't prayed to God. Now, God is more forgiving, I believe, now since Jesus, because Jesus was compassionate. But this is before you have kids. God was kind of a little Like, hey, if you don't follow my instructions, I don't got nothing to do with you, champ.
Ain't got nothing for you.
I don't got nothing. I think that's how God carried it back then. Like, you know who I am. You know the words coming around. You know who I am. You know who I am, right? I'm God. So if you don't, follow my instructions, don't now double back to me when you need me. No,
Yeah.
And he's not talking about like, it was egregious that he didn't follow. It was something simple that he could have done, right? And he already wasn't chosen by God. He was chosen by the people, So, and then let's factor in this. Then he tried to kill the person that God chose to be king multiple times. God's probably like, why am I going to talk to you?
This is
exhausting.
exhausting.
You don't do what I say, and then you're trying to kill somebody who I've chosen.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
So, but as far as why do you think God hates this so much, it's because what you just said.
Yeah,
it's like you don't know what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving right along, folks. So, next we went to
the Psalms.
Psalms.
Yeah.
Psalms of worship and reverence.
Mm-hmm. And it was Psalms 121, 123 to 125, and 128 to 130.
Okay, so, all right. Here's the thing, and I'm still loving the Psalms. Like, these are poems, I guess, like worship, poems and actual songs. Sometimes we see that word Selah, which I've looked up before, and
amen, right?
It's something like that. But a lot of people have speculations, and there's not like a one answer for it. It's like some people think it's this, some people think it's that. But I mean, it sounds so peaceful. Like, I think I could probably understand what it means if I'm just reading the psalm and it says Selah, and I'm like, it's almost like amen, but it's almost like, because amen is translated into like, it is so, right? It's like, stamp that, right? Like, amen, you got it. But I feel like Selah is like, I don't know, it just seems a little jazzier or more energetic than that, but still calming. So I don't really know what it means. I'm going to have to go back and look it up again, because whatever it meant, I felt that's what it meant. But, Anyway, I love reading the Psalms because they remind me, like I said last week, how to pray. And so many times, almost all the time, we're going through things that seem like you don't really have any power. They seem like, they're happening to you. And, this is the perfect example of what David is going through, where somebody's looking for him to kill him. And he's like in the wilderness. He's having to fight all these days by himself. And he's literally, out there by himself, but he's trusting in God. He's writing songs and singing them to God. And he's just going on every day, and he's not complaining. He's just praising God. A lot of his prayers were written already, like it had already happened. Like, some of them were written kind of, it sounded like fearfully, like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen to me, or not, I don't know what's going to happen to me, but like, they're trying to kill me type of thing. Like, God, please come right away. Like, he said that a couple times. But for the most part, he's claiming the victory, and he's using the word of God. He's using what God said to him back in his prayer. Like, God, you promised me this, so I know it's going to be okay. So that's why I love reading Psalms, because real time, it lets me know that this is how to pray, and this is what God does. This is, look at the track record. You know what I mean? Like, when you think you're going through and you don't have it together, like, look at David. Yeah. And he was just praising him the whole time.
I think Psalms are different. I think you got songs of worship and praise. I think you got songs of what do you do when you're going through something. I think you have songs of reflection. I think it's a combination of anytime you're going through hardship, or anytime that you are loving God, anytime that you are grateful. I think you go to Psalms, and I think that's why they're songs, because like you said, it's It's something that you're always going to be going through in life. Life is like seasons, right? Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's hot, and sometimes you fall.
Yep.
And you just gotta get back up. And no seasons, and that's why there are 4 seasons. No season is the same. So in life, you're constantly growing and changing. Nothing stays the same. You may look like, oh, my life is the same every day. It's not. It's something. You're going to have different thoughts. You're going to wake up in a good mood. Sometimes you're going to wake up in a bad mood. Sometimes you're going to be scared. Sometimes you're going to be happy. Sometimes this is the thing of the emotions. You're going through constant emotions daily. Sometimes you're going to feel afraid. Sometimes you're going to feel alone. And I think Psalms, when you're feeling those emotions, you should be reading the Bible, but I think Psalms, when you're feeling those emotions, I think you can go to them and pick one out and say, okay, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
So,
agreed. Yeah, they're like, well, see, that's exactly what I said. I said the prayers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm glad you have that opinion to me. Okay, so then the question is, the Psalms have changed tone from the ones read last week, right? How have David's circumstances changed? Come on now, speak on it. You want me to say it or you got it?
I got it. I think that, so remember, he's not running from Saul anymore, right? So remember,
yeah, he was running from him. That was before they had an encounter and he left.
Yeah, now he's not. So the Psalms are reflective of that. He's like, thank God that you've done this. And it's going back to saying, don't just pray when you're afraid and fearful. Don't just pray to God when you're going through something. We said that last week on our reflection, right? You got to pray to God when you're happy and everything is going well. That's why you have to pray daily. That's why you have to, I try every day to pray. I try to pray for forgiveness and repentance. And then I pray and I thank God for everything that He's done. Because I know I screwed up yesterday. I just don't know what I did. And I know I'm going to screw up in the future. And I pray for it. So I just start off my morning and say, God, I'm sorry. And then I thank God for everything. Because right now, I'm not going to lie, we're doing pretty good. So I'm just thankful to God for that. And then this season's going to change. And then, not to speak anything to existence, but that's just life. Something, we're going to be into another season. Another season. And
even I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Social Proof.
Yeah.
And last week, I think Donnie and Shans were talking about how, like, they were the happiest when they weren't actually successful. Not that they're saying like you can't be happy and successful, but they're saying like they set a goal last year, both of them, to make a certain amount of money, and then they were going so hard, but they realized like, oh, this wasn't my happiest year. I wasn't focused on happiness. I was focused on getting this bag. And now when they look back and say, what was my happiest year? It wasn't the year that they achieved that monetary goal.
Simone said in her interview too.
I think that's a common thing.
So she made $1 million in a month and was unhappy.
Yeah, I think it's a common thing because we hear about balance all the time about how you can't be balanced and focused at the same time, right? Imbalance is out of focus. Out of focus is out of balance or something like that. Anyway, the point is, it's just the way that life goes, that you're going to go through ups and downs. But to your point, if you're always worshiping and you're always praising and you're always in gratitude mode, like when those things happen, I think you have a sort of like a cushion. You certainly have your faith to sort of back you up and to hold you. And that's one of the things that some of my friends who are not, necessarily, they don't call themselves religious or spiritual, what they'll ask me about is like, what is it like and they have real questions like, you know, does that help you? And I'm like, yeah, it definitely does. Like, because I definitely believe and I have the hope that everything's going to be better. So there's nothing in me saying like, oh, this is my worst of times and there's nothing that's going to bring me out of it. I feel like that's how people get really dark in their lives. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, you know, other people don't, but I think having faith is something that can keep you up. And sometimes it's like physical, mental, spiritual, and one leans on the next one. It's like when they say when you're down, do exercise. And exercise is gonna chemically release endorphins, and you know what I'm saying,
they
give you
meditate
energy
too.
So it's like one of those things. I feel like it's a whole body thing. But for sure, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like I agree with what you're saying. About going through ups and downs. We do have it pretty good, but even in the next season, you know what I mean, like it might still be just as good in some ways, but we might introduce other things that are, you know, that are like, we want to be homeowners, full transparency. That's gonna come with some responsibility that we don't have to worry about right now that we're not homeowners. So it's like so like, you know, when there's a when there's something that happens in our apartment, oh gosh, it's so beautiful to be able to call the maintenance team, you know, contact the leasing office like, hey, you know, gonna have to fix this. We're not gonna be able to do that in our house. We weren't able to do it in the house we were just in either. I mean, like, you know, we were pretty much fixing everything ourselves. So, you know, that's an example of what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? So,
or we might reach a point like we might have a phenomenal financial year and then just be like, yo, I wasn't happy. I think that happens a lot, you know? You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but you gotta, you know, that's why there's no such thing as balance, right? Either, and I get why people say that, but you can only say that when you start to hyper focus on one thing. And you can't be like, oh, there's balance, but if you want to, look, for instance, this show, this podcast, this is a lot of work that we do, right? This cuts back from other things. You know, I can't go out with my friends, you know what I'm saying? It's sacrifices to be made, and that's where people are like, it's balanced. Well, it's not. There's always something going on in your life that's something, because we are focused on time, right? And it's the most valuable resource. There's never going to be a balance, because there's always something that you're not giving time to. It's always something. If you have 15 people to talk to, you're not going to be able to talk to them. If you have 30 people you want to talk to an hour each day, you're only going to talk to 24. Right. And then you gotta sleep.
Not even that, and some of them are gonna be asleep for 8 of those hours.
Then you gotta sleep for 8 hours. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why balance is a funny very word. Like, oh, I'm trying to be balanced.
I think
balanced in what? You could be balanced in a moment. You could be balanced in a season. But there's always gonna be, the scales are always gonna be here. Either you're hanging out with friends, or you're at work. Either you're hanging out with family. You can't hang out with family or friends. You can, right? But then aren't you taking away from spending time with your family and taking away from friends? Because, like,
you can't.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can have a big gathering, right? And I can have Faith there, and I can have her parents and my parents and my friends, but it's kind of a separate thing, right? Because I'm going to talk to my wife differently when we're alone versus everybody, and spend more time and be more intimate. That's why I think that, you know what I'm saying? That's why.
Plus, it's like you're not necessarily going to be in a conversation with everybody.
Everybody,
in this corner, you're going to be in that corner. You know, if everybody is a part of one conversation, then it's going to take a long time to get all the way around the room for everybody to speak. So it's like, you know, I get what you're saying. You have to be able to weigh and balance, but I actually think of balance differently than like having it even, right? I think of balance in two ways. It's if you look up the definition of balance, it's like adjusting yourself so that you don't fall over. Right, so really you could be balanced and be like this, right? It's like you're just trying to, and you can look really crazy, but you're not falling, right? So there's that, because it goes to your point, like you're trying to maneuver your way from falling, so it doesn't look like this. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily. It might be you putting more weight on this side, and then another thing is I look at balance like your balance, what you have left. And there's so many things that we do that take energy, time, money, other resources away from us, that balance is what you have left. And so what you want to do is you want to do things that put energy and time and resources into your bucket instead of taking out. Some of them are just going to take out, right? Like you go through a full work week, you're going to be tired, most days if you're really there. If you go put everything you have into the gym, right? Like that's something that's going to pour back into you, because you're tired and you're sort of like giving everything else at the gym, but then somehow that regenerates and restores you. So it's just all the way you look at it, really. But anyway, okay, so back to the question.
All right. I think we answered it though.
How have David's circumstances changed? Yeah. Oh, I didn't answer that.
Oh, okay. I thought you did. All right, okay.
No, you went first.
Okay.
So, how have David's circumstances changed? Because I was going to say something different. I was going to say that, well, you did say that he wasn't running from Saul anymore, but I think that he was more so so he was with the Philistines and he had felt a victory. I think because if you look at the Psalms that they're talking about, he's actually praising God and saying who be against me type of stuff. Like if it hadn't been the Lord that was on our side. Psalm 124, he started out with that. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side. Psalm 123, he's talking about how gracious and favorable God is. And so we're greatly filled with contempt. Our soul is greatly filled with the scoffing of those who are at ease. Like he's really giving it up and being detailed about how great God is, like with detail. And he is using a lot of similes, like we've escaped like a bird from the snare of the fowlers. And so these things are kind of pointing to what he's been through, but he's on the other side of it now. And so this goes to your point, what you were saying earlier, like you need to praise while you're going through and when you get to the other side. I had a situation like that today. Ooh, Lordy. Let me just share this. I went to the store, to the Target, and I went in there and I put my wallet in the hand cart that I had. And I went and got whatever I was getting. I checked out and I left my wallet in the cart. And I didn't realize it until I got to the next place. And of course, I was just thinking the worst. Like, oh my gosh. And I wasn't even sure that I left it there, but that's the last place that I remember, like, actually seeing it. So I went back in the Target, and at this point, like, 10 minutes had passed. I went back in the Target, and I asked the lady who, sent me to the line, like, oh my gosh, I was just here, and I left she was like, your wallet. I was like, praise Jesus. Because one of the things about losing your wallet is that you don't, so for me, I don't even really know what's in there. Like, I have an idea. Like, I have some credit cards, I got my ID, I got probably my medical card in there, and, some things like that. But, like, you don't really know. So you think about, like, replacing everything in your wallet. I really feel like I need to, like, have some sort of file or something, like a Google Doc or something, just listing all the things in case that were to happen to me. Like, okay, these are the credit card companies you need to call. You need to call this bank. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's like I would be so lost, right? Like, just trying to figure out, because it was probably months would be passed. And I've lost my wallet before, like, for real. And that joint is a pain. You gotta, I
left it on the Metro.
Oh, Lord Jesus. So I was so grateful when she gave me that. I blessed her. I thanked Jesus right there in public. I was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for favoring me. And I walked out of there I felt so humbled. And when I got in the car, I literally said a prayer for this lady. I don't know what her name was, but I was picturing her when I was praying for her, and I was like, Jesus, please. I was like, Lord, please bless her with whatever she's been praying for, right? Like, I said a literal prayer before I pulled out of that parking space. I was just so grateful. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, I felt like David. And then, and then, you know, he goes on to say how the wicked will not be, you know, favored or whatever. And so I think that's interesting because if you think about what he's been through, he had opportunities to be wicked, or not wicked, but he had opportunities to sin, and he didn't do them. And it's kind of a reminder that you have to avoid that, right? Like, there's going to be opportunities for you to sin or to do something just out of impulse. Like when he wanted to, was it Nabor? I forget his name. When he took the...
Yeah, it started with...
Namor. I'm thinking about, you know what I was really thinking about? I was thinking about Wakanda. Like, I was thinking about Black Panther, the guy.
It was,
Nabal.
Yeah.
So he wanted to kill Nabal and all of his warriors, all of his servants, or whoever was around. And Nabal's wife, who he later married, gave him what he needed, so that he just was like, okay, now I don't have to. And she was actually saying to him, you don't want to do this because then your hands will have blood on them, like you know, and then how's God going to treat you, type of thing, right? So when he's praying when he's saying the psalm after the fact, you know, and he's saying like that that wicked people, or people who sin or whatever, or people who are not righteous, you know, are not going to fare well. Yeah. Right? So I thought that was interesting. That's how David's circumstances have changed. He's come through. Yeah. And now he has proof that, you know, God just answered prayers. Okay, so that was a long-winded version, but this is a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be long-winded.
So we're in 2 Samuel, and we read 1 through 4, and David finds out Saul is dead, and then the problems between David and Saul, which I didn't. Maybe between Saul's sons, maybe they meant to say that.
Oh no, I know exactly what they're talking about, because remember those people who came and said the things about because we know how Saul died.
Yeah, he finds out.
And then the guy came and said something to him. Yeah. Then there was those other two guys that came around, and he was like, if you know what happened to them, if I had to do this to this person. I feel like David had this idea that, like, well, Saul was chosen by God. Yeah, right? Yeah. And so that's why he was honoring him in his death. He mourned him and everything.
Yeah, but it says problems between David and Saul. I just didn't think that.
Describe David's heart towards his enemy, King Saul.
No, no, I'm just talking about this right here.
Right. So which you don't remember?
No, it just in Samuel 1 through 4 it just talks about remember Saul's sons, and they were killing each other, and then Ashbagaz kills his brother, and then yeah. So I just didn't.
Well, I think they're talking about something else. I don't.
Maybe previously.
I think they're talking about the way that after Saul died, the way that David actually honored him, even though he was whacked.
All right,
that's what I think. It's only a bullet point, like problems between David and Saul. I mean, I could tell you what I think, because you know, Saul and David never had a problem with Saul.
No, right? Saul was just jealous.
Saul was just jealous, and he tried to kill him even before David knew. And then it was Jonathan who had to tell him, like, "Hey, man, you need to get out of here because my dad's trying to kill you." Then later on, he tried to, you know, he told him, like, I spared you twice, right? Once in the cave and then once when he was asleep. So I think that David, I won't say he looked up to Saul, but Saul sent for David in the beginning to be a musician to him and to help him with whatever demons he was having.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there was this level of honor and respect that David gave to Saul and honored him. And even when he died, he honored him in his death because he made sure, like, somebody had buried him. He gave them, like, props for that. The person who came and said that he killed Saul, he did away with him, and then the other two who were doing things. So I think it's one of those things where I think the problems between David and Saul were on both sides. Like Saul was jealous of David, but David was probably really hurt.
Yeah, I just it just doesn't make sense where it's at to me.
That's fine.
Because it's like Saul passed, and then it's like problems. Maybe put problems before, but I take this Bible so literal because God wants us to, but He doesn't want us to take it literal sometimes. Some things you are supposed to follow, some things you're not. So it just confused me because it wasn't. It talked about the problems, all of these in previous chapters. So maybe they're doing a recap. Like, you're right, but I just didn't get that from the reading. That's all.
I did. I mean,
I did.
Here's why. Because he's still having to put people to death to honor Saul.
Right, but that's he put one person to death and then he spared the other guy. Right?
The two brothers?
Nah, I think he might have slayed one brother.
I think he said. Okay, so in 2 Samuel.
Okay, yeah, he killed. Yeah, but that's not like he's just saying, "Behold, Saul is dead," and he said, "Bring the good news. I seized him and killed him in Ziklag. Which reward I own this house's bed. I shall not require blood of your hand and destroy you from the earth." David commanded and killed them and cut off their hands and hung them. That was 2 Samuel 4. But
2 Samuel 4 what?
Verse 9.
Okay.
But those are sons of Saul. Maybe they're talking about how... I'm lost, guys. That's all. It happens. I maybe they're saying how he honored him. I don't. That honor is not a problem.
Even the way that Judah followed David, but then they made Saul's sons the king over other areas.
There was a lot going on with the Saul.
I think he was literally honoring Saul.
Yeah, but that's not a problem.
Okay, well, I think it is.
I don't think honoring. I've never heard of honoring being a problem. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's a problem because there's still conflict, right? Like, this is somebody who was trying to kill you, and you're still taking up for him and honoring him in his death, even though he wouldn't have done that for you. He was trying to kill you. So anyway, that's just it's just a difference of opinion.
Yeah,
so it's cool. That's what I think. It's okay. I mean, and maybe I get it wrong, but that's what I do understand that it's post life, like it's posthumous, but I think their problems are resurfacing because now it's not a clean thing. You know what I mean?
Okay, so in 1 Samuel 13, God calls David a man after his own heart. Describe David's heart towards his enemy King Saul.
Oh wow!
We just answered. All right, that's okay.
That is
we
wild.
just answered that, right? But here's okay. So we'll just
13.
Yeah. Well, remember this was in. So I think you're right. So describe David's heart towards his enemy King Saul. I think he has compassion. He has compassion and forgiveness, because that's why God said you're a man after my own heart. Because God has compassion and forgiveness. Now, this is why I say compassion. When a young man said that on the 2 Samuel 14, a young man comes and says, here is, he tells him that Saul and Jonathan and his sons passed away. And then, the guy told him the Philistines killed them. And then he said, I know Saul's dead because Saul told me to kill him. Which, number one, he lied because Faith pointed it out. I didn't realize that. Saul killed himself. We talked about that. Right?
He fell on his own sword.
He fell on his own sword. So the guy said, I killed him. His all sons are dead. And David's like, so how do you know that he died? And when David found out that he's like, you killed him, he has compassion for Saul and kills the young man. He kills the young man because he says, you've killed the Lord's anointed. So I think he forgave Saul, because he could have just been like, all right, cool, young man. But he says, and he also said a point, like, if a God anoints you, and it doesn't matter what we have between us, you're still the Lord's anointed. So I think that's by killing the young man, because the young man said he killed Saul, and he said, I gotta kill you because you struck the anointed. That's honoring Saul, right? And he's forgiving Saul for what he's done. And then he's right. And then 2 Samuel 4, what we just talked about, is that two of Saul's sons, they struck and beheaded a person that was against David. They snuck into his house and did this. They came to David and said, look what we've done for you. Now this is what David did. David says, this is 2 Samuel 4:11. How much more when a wicked man have killed a righteous man in his own bed? Shall I now not require the blood as your hand and destroy you from the earth? How are you going to go? It doesn't matter if he was against me, but how are you going to kill an innocent and righteous man? So at this point, I have to destroy you. That's what it says. You know, and I think that by doing that, he's saying, this is not right for you to kill an innocent and righteous man. Like, if he was going to come kill me, let him try. But you can't just go into a man's house and kill him, not knowing what he's going to do the next day. So I have to strike you down. And I think that's we've seen that previously. That's what the Lord does, right? And it's like, you can't kill somebody righteous and in their own house when they have done nothing to you. So, you know, that's what I think the things that David is doing. But also, David and Faith brought this up about Nabal, Abigail's husband. David was about to go kill him. And I'm not saying this, but I think sometimes God gets real angry and has wrath. And we've noticed that sometimes, like Moses had to pray for the people because they were complaining too much. And I think God was like, okay, this is true. Right? In the same way that David had to be reminded, like, oh, okay, can't go kill him. I am within my right. But it's
right. The flesh, right?
It's the flesh.
The flesh wasn't. It's like so funny because I'm really understanding that nowadays more than I ever had before. Flesh is like one of those words. It's like, you know, actually the word itself always seemed kind of gross to me because whenever people say stuff like, you know, I bust their head to the white meat or whatever, like I know what flesh looks like. It's like the stuff under your skin, right? But and it's like if you ever skinned your knee really bad and you see the white meat, it's like but it always weirded me out a little bit when people would say that, like in church, like, you know, the flesh, you just, you know, you're all about the flesh, whatever. It's like, it just seems so technical and like, for lack of a better term, churchy. And it's like, okay, it's one of those things that you could say in layman's terms and you could get your point across, but you needed to say the word flesh and it's weird. But now I understand some things about how our minds work, about how the human brain is set up, and how we are having an experience, and I did know this, right? We're having an experience. Our physical bodies are having a human experience, but we are actually we're not necessarily. And I was explaining this to James a couple weeks ago. Bear with me here because I might not say it exactly the way that I said it. You know, when I said to you, but like, imagine that you're actually 7 feet tall, right? So I'm like, 5'7". Imagine I was 2 feet taller than this. Imagine everybody's 2 feet taller than their actual body. And that sort of like, whatever it is, your being is actually looking down on you, make decisions. And that being, not being inside of your body, would be able to make better decisions because they're not reacting to what's happening to their body. They're not cold or itchy or hot or hungry or all of the things that you would do to soothe or to make your body comfortable. It's like you could see the choices and you could make a different choice based off of what the best choice would be. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to being the person inside making the choice that's most comfortable. And so when you bring up David, it reminded me of that because it's like, somebody says something to you and it happens to you, buddy. When even we're talking about hypothetical situations, and it happens to me. I'm not just putting you out there. Hypothetical situations, and you're like, oh, I would never let that happen. I would do this and this and that and that. And I'm like, babe,
it's the old James.
Calm down. He's saying it's the old James, but like these are hypothetical situations, and he's saying this, and like same for me. Like I have issues. You know what I'm saying? Like I have issues too, and so we're having these experiences, being the what did they say in the book? The earthbound. You have these earthbound experiences. And you're not really thinking about, the consequences or the 3 day later, when you come to your senses, right? Sort of decisions that you could have made. So I think that's interesting because it's like, we all are having this. Moses had a human moment. We see David having human moments with Nabal. We've seen every one of these people so far that we have seen
Isaac.
Have human moments. And it's really about like how you react to them. Now, if you pull back and you think of yourself as your like higher self, and you're like, what would be the consequences, right? Like, let me get out of the body and think to myself, okay, if this weren't such an urgent thing, because in your body you're feeling adrenaline, you're feeling, you could be feeling dopamine. That's one of the things that keeps me scrolling, or playing a game or something like that, or watching a show. You're feeling these like sensations of like, oh, this is exciting, or oh, this is soothing, this is relaxing, or oh, this is uncomfortable, or oh, I'm angry, or oh, I'm irritated, or whatever. You're not thinking about any of that. You're thinking like your higher self, and you're saying like, the best thing for me to do right now is to drink a glass of water and reflect. You know what I mean? But it's like you're in your body. So what you do is react to all of the chemicals that are really, you know what I mean?
You're in your body.
Anyway, back to the question. If I were to say David's heart towards enemy King Saul, I would use his words. Describe David's heart towards this enemy, King Saul. I think that when he first heard, so when the guy came and said he was a Mechalite, where is that? Right in the beginning?
That is right in the beginning of 2 Samuel.
Because he was like, who are you? I'm an Mechalite. This is 2 Samuel 1:8. And he says, stand up facing me. Oh, and this is what he was telling him. He said to me, stand up facing me and kill me, for terrible agony has come over me, and I still leave. I will be taken alive. So I stood facing him and killed him because I knew that he could not live after he had fallen. Lies they tell. Because I distinctly remember Saul asking somebody, and maybe he did ask him,
but he was like, no.
But he didn't do it.
He ran.
And then Saul ended up falling on his own sword because he didn't want to be like sort of captured or whatever. And I think we've seen a couple of times when a king gets captured, they like do all of this wild stuff. Like they take his body parts and put them all over the land. Like, oh, this is the king's head, or that's so gruesome. But anyway, getting back to the question, describe David's heart towards the enemy King Saul. When he found out, now that was him finding out. He was like, how do you know that Saul and his son Jonathan are dead? Like, why do you think that? And then the guy told him the story. So then what he did after that
wait.
2 Samuel 1:11.
Not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Listen. He says, 1 Samuel 31:4, when Saul said to his armor bearer, draw your sword and thrust me through it, lest the uncircumcised come and thrust me through and mistreat me. But his armor bearer would not, for he feared greatly. Therefore Saul took his own sword, fell upon it. Then his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, and he also fell upon the sword and died with him.
So this is some random.
This is a random guy. That's all I wanted to point out.
Oh, okay.
So
the servant that was with Saul, when he fell on his own sword, also fell on his own sword.
Yes.
So this is not that guy. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't want that to be inaccurate.
Because I was like, okay, Saul did fall, and I was like, what happened to him? And I was like, let me see. And then
that's good. I'm glad you pointed that out. So this guy is lying. Okay, he's here. He's lying to David, which is there a worse thing? So you're trying to front and fake, and what do they call it? This guy is fronting, and he's trying to act stunting. Stunting. Yeah, I think that's what it was like. He was trying to act like he killed Saul. I don't know what. I guess he was thinking. Okay, so here's the thing, because David later said when he got those other two guys killed for like killing somebody and there was innocent in their own bed. He said the guy who thought he was bringing me good news. And that was in, let me just find that real quick, because that was in 2 Samuel, it was 2 Samuel 4:10. It really goes back into 9. But it says, 2 Samuel 4:10, when a man told me, behold, Saul is dead, thinking that he was bringing good news, I seized and killed him in Ziklag to reward him for his news. So this is what I'm trying to point out. This guy's all front and thinking like, yeah, I killed Saul, and David's going to be great with me because I'm going to tell him that. Meanwhile, it's a lie, and it's a lie that got you killed. So it's like, wrong thing to say, buddy. So that was one thing, and it's like, why not just tell the truth? I don't know who this guy is, but he probably thought.
Leave it alone.
He probably thought, and this is not in the Bible. I'm certainly speculating right now. Yeah, he's thinking he's gonna go and be like, "Hey, I killed Saul for you, and you should regard me highly because he was after your life and da 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 da." But see, when people like that come around and they're already lying, so that was the reason I pointed it out right away, because I was like, what's gonna happen with this guy? Because if he does gain David's favor, and this is before I knew what happened to him,
sneaky, then
we gotta watch him because he's he's around here telling lies. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, here's the thing.
I'm telling a lie.
So when he did that, and then David told his servants to kill him, but that was after this. So basically, 2 Samuel 1:11. After the guy told him that he killed Saul, right? David grasped his own clothes and tore them in mourning, because that's what they used to do, like tear their clothes. And so did all the men who were with him. They mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and Jonathan his son, for the Lord's people and the house of Israel, because they have fallen by the sword in battle. That's when David went back and talked to the guy and was like, what did you, how did you think, how is it that you weren't afraid to do that type of thing? And so when we're answering the question of describe David's heart toward this enemy King Saul, if you go on into after he killed him, he sang this dirge funeral song over Saul and his son Jonathan. This is in 2 Samuel 1:17. So he basically is starting singing songs. He told his people to teach everybody the song of the bow, or the bow. I don't know how, but he taught everybody this song, and basically they they were mourning Saul and Jonathan, and they were singing the song or saying this thing, and they were just kind of like in 2 Samuel 1:26, he said, well, this is specifically about Jonathan. I'm distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been a good friend to me. Your love toward me was more wonderful than the love of a woman. How the mighty have fallen and the weapons of war have perished. So he's basically, I think he's torn because he's known Saul as the king, and he still regards him as the king, and I guess he's just honoring what he thinks should be the case. And it doesn't say that he was fighting internal thoughts. I know he definitely had love for Jonathan, because Jonathan actually saved his life by sending him away. And you know, that was funny, and this is, I guess we can end on for real, but when he said your love toward me was more wonderful than the love of women, I was thinking to myself, what does that mean? But here's what this is not something that I know for sure, but I started thinking about it, and I was thinking about it almost that whole morning. And I remember thinking like, well, Jonathan basically was loyal to David to the point where he didn't harm any of his family. He didn't harm his father, but he gave the loyalty to David in the way of saving his life. Like, look, my father's trying to kill you. You got to get out of here. And I don't think a lot of people would do that. I think a lot of people would just be like, dang, this is not good, but I'm just going to be loyal to my family, or whether it's good or bad. So I think that's the way he was saying, like, he was more loving to him than women.
I got a point on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's kind of like how, shout out to one of my good friends, Jamal. Like, as soon as we met each other, it was kind of like this connection. Actually, the first time I met him, I was like, I don't like that guy. And then I don't think he liked me, right? But here's what happened. We're in the same fraternity, and we both went to Bowie State, and he pledged, and I was like, yo, we're just alike. And then we found out our birthdays were 4 days apart. And I think when it says the love surpasses a woman, because I think with men it's more of like a bonding thing. And you know, I think with men, I know we're supposed to harbor our emotions, but I think when you have another man in your kindred spirits and y'all are friends, then you can really express. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I kind of kindred like. You know what I'm saying? Like, same with Pat. You know what I'm saying? We get
like a brother.
Yeah, like a brother, but not a brother, but am a brother. So I think that's what it's like. I think it's just like, man, he's cool. We have so much in common. Yeah. And, you know, we'll do whatever for each other. So that's what I think it's like. I think it's, you know.
I agree, and I think there's a respect thing, like you said, with men. I'm not the expert, but it's so funny that you mentioned that, because it's like you have so many similarities, and you can see, you know, it's like I can understand what you're experiencing because we're a lot alike. So it's not like necessarily like women, because women don't know back in this day, especially, like what it means to be like having to be a warrior and do this and that, and I've, you know, we've heard some stories now, so it's like it's a lot.
Some women were warriors in the Bible.
Yeah, well, I haven't really. Never? Well, yeah. I remember the judge, and I remember the lady who drove a nail or something through somebody's head. But listen, I'm not saying that it wasn't the norm, though.
No.
And
You're right.
I think I understand, because it's like not only did Jonathan like give him information that ended up saving his life, but he went not against his father, but not in works with his father in order to hold up what was right. Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of interesting, but I think that David's heart towards King Saul was one that was conflicted, because even when he confronted him those 2 times, he was saying like, listen, you're trying to kill me, I'm righteous, tell me why you're trying to kill me. You're trying to kill me, I could have killed you, but I didn't, and I won't.
I won't kill
right?
you.
Because look,
He
it's not
refused
right.
to kill Saul.
Tell me what you're after me for. Tell me what I
He
did.
refused to kill him, yo.
And it's like he still respected him, even through all of the, which is another thing that like doesn't really happen that much these days. Because if you don't like me, then I don't like you because you don't like me.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of, you know, the old Martin Luther King spirit of like, kill hate with love. It's like, oh, if you don't like me, if you blocking me, I'm blocking you too. We both blocked. Like, that's the attitude we take on these days. And I don't say everybody,
Which
but
is crazy, yeah.
But it's like, that's not what David was doing. David was like, I mean, by the way,
somebody try to kill you, what, like 6 times?
I mean, I think it was more than that. They were on the look for this guy.
And then you still were like, hey, I still love you, and I won't kill you.
Right, but he had enough sense to get out of there.
Of course.
So, but he was, you know, it's like, you know, boundaries. It's discernment. It's like, all right, well, now I've made my point, but I gotta get out. I gotta get out.
I gotta get out of here,
man. So anyway, next week we're gonna be reading more Psalms, and then we're gonna get into First Chronicles.
Yep.
And we're also gonna do. So we gotta do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right?
Yeah.
1,
some interesting
2,
stuff.
3, 4. So we're gonna do more Psalms again, more First Chronicles, and more Psalms. So we're basically First Chronicles and Psalms next week. And so we're really jazzed. Like, we're doing this thing, guys. And I mean, let me tell you, it's not always easy to get, and it's partly because we're doing this in the morning, but I'd rather do it in the morning and have it be on my mind all day.
Yeah, man, I feel different.
Yeah, than to do it at night, and then I don't know. I just feel like that's just for me. I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers the other day. We're talking about different times of the day to work out, because some people like to work out at night, and he was actually telling me that he works out in the middle of the day, like for lunch. Like, he'll do a workout. I was like, I never really thought about doing that, but there are some people who I work with who will go downstairs to the fitness center at our job,
like the morning, man,
and do the workouts in the midday. But for some reason, I just don't. I don't see the opportunity to do that in the role that I have. But if there probably is, I just haven't tried it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like the mornings to do that personal stuff, like talk to God and meditate and work out, because I know I can't be interrupted by anything.
Yeah, it's so peaceful.
I know it's like. Yeah,
and it gives me energy, and it gives you confidence. It's the best way to have confidence is in the morning.
I just feel like nobody's gonna bother me.
Nope.
Nobody's looking for me. I don't owe anybody. You know, I haven't promised any of my time to anybody. There's no way that I'm gonna forget that I had a meeting. Cause that's another thing. I think the reason why
I can't work out.
It's like, can you imagine? And you're in the gym, and then you're like, you know, you get a text or something from somebody like, "Where are you? The meeting is up. It started."
Like,
it's like, oh my god, I can see that happening.
Me too. Yeah.
So I just, you know, I can't mess around with that.
Yeah.
But I just like the morning.
I do agree with the morning. It's nobody's looking for you.
And
I don't think I could do that at my job. I don't think I could work out.
I mean, how can you really enjoy it? I don't know. People can do it. The guy just explained to me like how he does this all the time. So great.
That's nice.
And you know, we always work from home, so it's probably even more of an opportunity to do it there.
I would walk.
But it's something sacred about it.
Yeah.
It's like eating lunch at your desk. Yeah. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Working out at midday to me is like eating lunch at your desk. Like, you can't even really fully enjoy it because your work is right in front of you. What are you laughing at?
Bad setup, man. I'm sorry. Man.
Oh, okay. So we're not going to go into
anyway,
that.
I'm so
there's
sorry.
so many weird things in that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my point is something about the mornings, and I feel that, you know, it does boost my confidence. It's my time for me, and I'm going to just really take advantage of these next mornings. I got 10 days left in January. I'm going to go out strong in January, and I'm kind of compartmentalizing my months in threes, and I'm compartmentalizing my months, because I think a lot of times we make the mistake of like tracking our progress through the entire year. But I think what I'm going to start doing is reviewing my month and making myself have an assessment of like how well it went and what I might need to change every month. And that's going to keep me like aware of like, you're not really doing so well with your workouts. And so if you continue like this is how it's going to end up. Do something about it. No? Mm. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm really chatty Cathy today, but...
No, I wasn't saying yes to that.
Oh, no. Even if you were, I'd still do it. So anyway, I really enjoy reading with you. I really enjoy filming with you.
Yes.
Next week, we're going to read early, and I'm going to be in the gym. So when we come back next week, and we're going to be basically closing out January for all intents and purposes. It's going to be like 3 days left when we film next week. Or when we go live next week, because I think this is a thing now.
I like it.
When we go live next week, I hope to be bringing great news about how that discipline, for me has gotten notched up. And I hope you guys are going to have a fabulous week. Now, do you have any shout-outs?
Oh, yeah. I want to shout out fourth quarter, Everything Matters. I want to shout out Yes, I'm a Unicorn. I want to shout out Those Two Sisters.
Thank you.
I got something in the works, guys. It's coming soon. So I'll definitely let y'all know when that is. And we got some stuff coming soon for this community as well.
Yes. So, agreed. Well, do I have any shout outs? I'm trying to figure out what I already gave the shout out in the other show that I'm on, but big shout out to Tabitha Brown. I just love me some Tabitha Brown.
Did you find a popcorn? No, you didn't find a popcorn.
I did not find the popcorn, and I went
you
to Target
probably not
today.
Gonna get that.
That was one of the things I was looking for, but I did not see it.
You think it was out that time we went?
It probably was, but the warden was there, and the warden doesn't let me put
I would have got you popcorn.
Cart.
I like popcorn.
So this is the warden, guys, and when we go to the store together, this other side of him comes out that's like, where did you do? That's not on the list. Put that back.
Frugal, guys.
Whatever. So the warden was with me the day that I went and got my Tabitha Brown items from Target the first time. And she put up a post like maybe like last week.
Popcorn.
She was eating that popcorn, and I don't even know. She said what the flavor was, but I was like, I know it's delicious. I love Tabitha Brown.
She gotta bring that joint. She might bring it back out.
I literally try to support everything that she does.
Section? It wasn't.
It was actually like out in the aisle with the other stuff because she has food too. She has like vegan food and some of it's refrigerated. But then there was another section right there, and I saw all of the food. I just didn't get any because we had just gone grocery shopping, I think. So I was just like, but I didn't think about the fact that like it wasn't until she
went and got those vegan sausages. She probably got some vegan food.
She got some vegan food. I don't know if she has. She might have something.
I went to Safeway. Anyway,
listen, my shout out is to Tabitha Brown because she is also a believer. Yep. And she always talks about her testimony, and God is blessing her real time when we get to see it right here in real time. And I'm just grateful that, I'm grateful to God for shining His light through people that are believers, because it kind of shows the pathway of what you can be when you stand up and do the right thing. We don't have a lot of examples really of people who are winning, who like live righteously. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's out here doing all of these things, and she's showing up and just bringing smiles. She's, you see a lot of stuff where people are kind of like catty or whatever, and not judging anybody else, but she just doesn't bring that energy. She just always brings a really fun and bright energy. I found myself at the end of last year, like, watching her. It popped up in my feed, guys. I'm not a weirdo, but it was like a YouTube thing that's made for kids, and it was one of those days that I was just, sitting on the couch and like I was writing something or something like that, and I was like, sure. I was watching like planning videos or something, and I saw her kids show come up, and I was like, let's see what this is about. And it was about like feeling sad. Do you feel sad or something like that? When you feel sad, what are you doing? And I was watching that joint like I was a kid.
She also has she judges a cooking show.
She has a cooking show. She's got
it's all vegan cooking too. which is very interesting.
That's really
Very
cool.
interesting.
She has products for like the kitchen, and she recently put out. She already had this hair care line called Donna's Recipe, and she put out some more products with Ulta through that line. It's like a sweet potato line or whatever. And I got some of those products, and I love them. They are actually really, really good. Not just because I love her, but the actual products are bomb. So, shout out to Tabitha Brown, and yeah, that's my shout out for the week. I also want to shout out those two sisters like he did. I'm going to shout out Miss Damita Jo. I'm going to link her in the description box so you can buy her merch and watch what she's got going on her channel. And yeah, that's all we got for you this week. We're so excited to come back next week, and we're excited to be back for season 3. This is, I think, episode 2 of season 3. And
is this season 3 or season 2?
It's season 3. We started season 3 now. This is the new year. And it was like so we came back with the anniversary.
I thought we started filming the last
No,
one.
we did we started season 2 after we got here.
Oh, well.
Listen, so I'm the editor, so I know what I'm talking about.
I need to keep up.
Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, don't take our word for it. Go to the source.
Oh, yeah. Read
the Bible. This guy.
All right, guys.
All right, bye. Peace.
Keep waiting.
You're so sick. Oh my gosh.
Good. Oh, okay.
Okay, so is there a way that I could download this now? I could do it from
You can probably do it from your computer. You probably can. I had to put my phone up. That joint was vibrating. I was like, yo. The game's over. Who won? Chiefs won, of course.
Oh, you know what? I think, yes.